I got HMRC to pay for me and my wife to go on a 5-star trip to Spain, and in this video, I'm going to show you how I did it. Hi, I'm Dan Bradbury. I exited my first company back in 2013, and since that time, I've bought and sold about a dozen other companies, and now I help other business owners do the same. So look, the UK right now sucks pretty bad. We've just had a lot of tax rises, the NIC increase, cost of living is significant. But did you know that recent ONS data shows that 1 in 3 business owners with revenues in excess of £1 million are making less take-home pay than plumbers? We're going to talk more about that in other videos coming up soon, but in this video, I'm going to show you how to get paid more. Now, up front, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a tax advisor. You must seek your own professional advice. However, I'm going to show you what I've done based upon my accountant's advice, and you can take it away and see if it can apply for you. So, recently, my wife and I went on a trip to Spain. I'm going to take you through the expenses, and I'm going to show you different ways that you can concoct it and how it makes a massive difference in your pocket. So our trip had the following expenses: 2 business class flights from Heathrow to Valencia, £850. Courtesy of British Airways. We also stayed in a few different hotels because we flew into Valencia and stayed there for a few days. We then drove down the coast and we stayed in a variety of other places along the way. So our hotels over this 1-week trip cost £3,420. We hired the car, of course, which was £595. Food and other miscellaneous stuff was just over £1,000 at £1,050. So the total cost of this trip out of pocket was £5,515. But you go, that's what the trip cost me. But it's not, because of course, as an additional rate taxpayer, and a lot of business owners listening to this, you may well be an additional rate taxpayer, you've got to pay the dividend tax to get that money out of your company. And the additional rate, the top rate that you can pay, is currently 39.35%. So in order for you to have net £5,515, you're going to have to pay an additional £3,576 in dividend tax. So in other words, your limited company has to have had net profit of at least £9,091 in order for you to be able to dividend out the money that you need to pay the tax, the dividend tax, and to be able to pay for this trip to Spain. 5,000 to 9,000 is a massive increase, obviously, nearly 40% more, but that's not all. Because in order for you to have that net profit, the company has had to pay corporation tax, which of course, if you're listening to this, chances are you're the 25% rate, right? Which is $250,000 and upwards profits of, I believe. So for you to have that dividend and have those net profits, you're going to have paid an additional £3,030 in corporation tax. So all put together, for you to get £5,515 to spend on this trip, you're going to need over £12,000 in profit before tax, right? So in effect, you're going to have paid £6,600 in tax if it's coming out of your net pay. In other words, this is more than double the cost, right? This is monumental. So the key question, and the question I want to answer in this video, is what is the criteria to use to define if it's tax deductible as a company expense? Now, again, big warning. There's lots of people that jump on, TikTok or Instagram or YouTube with videos purporting ways to do things that are blatantly tax evasion, right? And that can get you in serious trouble. I'm in favor of you sticking to the law and sleeping at night. But I want you to take this back to your advisors. This isn't me giving you tax advice. This is showing you how I did it based upon the advice from, in my opinion, one of the top business accountants in the country, for you to take back to your criteria. So here are the 3 key criteria as I see it. Number 1, for it to be tax deductible as a business expense, it needs to be wholly, exclusively necessary for the business, right? So that's the golden rule. The tax law around it is called duality of purpose. In other words, if it's a mixed expense, business and personal, it's basically disallowable for simplicity's sake. So if you're just going on a holiday, clearly it's not a business expense. But if you were attending a business mastermind event or you're meeting clients in Spain, it's allowable. So in my case, I've got 3 private clients in Spain at the moment, down the coast, and I met 2 of them in this trip. One of them, I was going to do some training with their team, and another one, I'd actually just recently, whilst I was on this trip, closed on the exit of his business, which was a multi-million-pound exit. We've been working together for 5 years, and he's going to be on an upcoming episode of the podcast, so keep your eyes peeled. It's, he's retired now. He's got a place in the UK, place in Spain, and he was out in Spain, so I had 2 clients that I was seeing in the trip, one in Valencia and one further down the coast in Denia. So in other words, this was a business trip to see 2 clients. Point number 2, you can't just say that it was a business trip. You need evidence and documentary, right? So you want to be ready to prove an itinerary. You need invoices, receipts, etc. You need the business justification. So that could look like the strategic plan, the minutes from the meetings, right? The follow-up. Ideally, it would be done in advance, which of course I did. I arranged with my clients in advance this trip and when we were going to meet and on what days, right? So effectively, the more corporate or documented the trip appears, the stronger your position. Third and final point is who goes matters. Clearly, as you're watching this, you're probably a director of a limited company or a designated partner in an LLP. It's more likely to be allowable if you're an employee or a director and it's strictly for business. But if a non-employee, like a spouse or a child of yours, comes along, that portion is not going to be allowable, right? Unless there's some kind of genuine business role for them. Now, in my case, my wife is a shareholder in one of the limited companies that I have, and she's also a member of an LLP that I have. And she has a role that she plays inside the company. So let me summarize. How do you make it defensible if called upon? I think there needs to be a business case for the trip. I think you need to keep all receipts and meeting records. If you have any personal expenses, if you went to a theme park, for example, you need to split those out separately. And the personal expenses, I just pay for them personally, right? And I think there should be a trip report or an action plan. Here it is in a nutshell. It's called a BJS. What does that stand for? A business justification statement, right? And you want to have it on file in case HMRC ever asks. But in a nutshell, they're the 3 criteria. I ran it through my accountant in advance, checked against the HMRC rules and codes, and made sure that we had the appropriate documentation. The effect is, me and my wife flew business class into Valencia. We had a beautiful drive down the coast in a fantastic new car, met with the client in Valencia, met with the client down in Denia, had those 2 kind of the training and the meeting, and it was all effectively paid for by HMRC. And we had a fantastic time. Here's the point. As a business owner in the UK right now, we're getting squeezed. And there's a kind of a vilification of us as the, in the top couple of percent of taxpayers. And if you're an additional rate taxpayer, you're basically in the top 1%. I think you've got to protect yourself. I think they're coming for us and they're going to push us to pay more. Now, I'm not saying, avoid tax at all costs. No, I'm in favor of paying what's legally owed. However, I don't want to leave money on the table. So again, don't rely on this video for tax advice, but I'm offering this as an example of my own experience. And I thought about this video carefully before I put it online. I spoke to my accountant about it, but I go, no, this is a legitimate business expense in the rules. So it's done very efficiently. And I'm sharing it with you because my experience is a lot of business owners are taking home a pittance and yet they're leaving loads on the table. And by the way, if you take this video back to your accountant and they say, oh no, you can't claim that. Well, you might want to listen to your accountant, but you might want to fire your accountants. Most accountants are useless. Approximately half of the accountants who, when new clients join my company, about half of my clients fire their accountant and replace them in their first year in one of my programs. The reason why is they get to see what other members are doing and they see that there's a much better way. So I'm not saying your accountant's a bad person, but the standard of accounting in the UK varies massively. Just because they've got a piece of paper and a qualification doesn't mean they're doing the best job for you. Okay, so I think if they disagree with the basic tenets in this video, I'd encourage you to get a second opinion. My accountant, there's a few other accountancy firms that work with our clients that we could introduce you to that could show you how to make these savings. For example, on the trip, 2 clients, one of them was actually the gentleman who exited his business, joined the program and changed accountants. The other one didn't. She is still with the accountant she was when she joined the program, right? Both of them with me numerous years, 2, 3, 4, 5+ years. That's it, an example of it in play. And he's making a lot of money. In fact, on the exit transaction, there was a couple of little shifts that made the difference of tens of thousands of pounds in additional tax savings. You've got to get educated on this stuff. Here's my point. Is it possible there's a large amount of money you're currently paying to the government, which if you structured it better could belong in your pocket? I believe if you're going to go to all the effort of running a business in this country, you deserve to be rewarded for your efforts. Don't lose unnecessary money to the taxman. Now, if you like this video, comment, like, subscribe. We're going to be doing more content on this in this series. However, if you want to get this to work right now, you want to get into these strategies in more details, taking into account your specific circumstance. So it's not just the theory or what I've done, but how it gets applied to your business. Click the link below to go to ceopayraise.com, and we will work with you over a short period of time to unlock these savings and put more money in your pocket. Go to ceopayraise.com.